Welcome, Facebook friends, and it's another Fantasy Football Sunday. We're back in the friendly confines of the USA Today newsroom. Can we use friendly confines and not get your Cleveland Indians fandom upset?
I'm proud. They took them to the limit.
Very good. But we're talking fantasy football today. I'm Steve Gardner, and this is Casey Moore, and we're here to help you set your fantasy football lineups for Week 10 in the National Football League. Some of the things to get out of the way, first of all, 4 teams are on bye: the Buffalo Bills, Detroit Lions, Indianapolis Colts, and Oakland Raiders. So some decent quarterbacks are missing in action this week. So folks are maybe digging a little bit deeper to replace the Andrew Lucks and Derek Carrs. So we'll go through the rankings here in just a second. Remind you that all of the rankings are online at fantasy.usatoday.com. Our friends at Fantasy Sharks have been so gracious as to provide those to us and update them throughout the week. So the latest rankings are there online. I hope we have the latest here. They could maybe change while we're talking, but we will give you our best shot and some of our fantasy advice. If you've got some questions, you can comment in the Facebook comments box below and send them in. Casey will be taking a look at those. And
there are people already on there.
Everything
Steve,
else. So thanks for joining us. We really
Yes.
appreciate it as we get back into football. And Casey, first of all, a couple of things, news and notes. Bryce Petty looks like is going to start at quarterback for the New York Jets over Ryan Fitzpatrick. Do you think that's an upgrade, or is it just at this point? What do we care?
I don't think so. I don't think. I mean, I think that it is going to. It's just an. I don't think it's going to hurt Brandon Marshall or help him or anything. It'll be very interesting to see what we get out of Bryce Petty the first week, just to see where his mind's at, what kind of talent he can bring to the table, and how he injects some life maybe into the offense.
He is at home against the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams, though, have the number 8 defense in the National Football League, so not the easiest of places to start. Also, Will Fuller, I think the actives and inactives are starting to come out. Will Fuller is the first guy that I saw before we went on the air here who is inactive for the Houston Texans, so maybe a heavier dose of DeAndre Hopkins there for Houston. They will take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. Jaguars surprisingly pretty good defense.
Yeah, so, and we do got a couple more last minute ones here. We've got Doug Martin is officially active. We figured he was going to play, but his role still up in the air. What do you do if you are a Doug Martin owner here?
I think at this point there are several guys. In fact, we'll talk about a few more of those. I think there's several guys who are just coming back from injury. I don't think you can really play any of them with any confidence this week. Doug Martin has been out since week 2 with a hamstring injury, just now coming back. I mean, although the options aren't great in Tampa Bay, Peyton Barber probably going to get the majority of the snaps there, but I still see him as a low-end RB2. And Martin, I just don't think you can put any faith and confidence in him coming back after that kind of a long layoff.
I agree. And also Matt Jones inactive today for the Redskins against the Vikings, also without Deshaun Jackson. So
right. Another talking about some of those running backs, we mentioned Doug Martin as one of them coming back. Spencer Ware of the Kansas City Chiefs out with a concussion last week, coming back in. Charcandrick West didn't really do a whole heck of a lot. So I think the Chiefs and Spencer Ware fantasy owners are certainly happy to get Spencer Ware back. I think you can start him with confidence. The other guys, however, James Starks for the Green Bay Packers is active today. One of the things the Packers have been doing is putting Randall Cobb in the backfield and Ty Montgomery in the backfield. Mike McCarthy, the head coach, said today or earlier this week that Ty Montgomery, you got to get used to him being a running back. Put aside the thoughts of his number, 88.
Yeah, exactly.
He is a running back, and he's big. He's gotten double-digit carries the last couple of weeks. I don't think you can put James Starks back in. I think he's a guy that maybe you save possibly for next week and beyond.
Yep. And they have the luxury of doing that, I guess, to ease Starks back into the role. All right.
Another guy. Let's keep going. Got a couple more.
Yeah, that's right.
Carlos Hyde looks like they have the 49ers have a later game this week, I believe, at Arizona. So Carlos Hyde, we won't know officially whether he's active or not, but he's been out for a while. And Dujuan Harris had a pretty good game.
And they say that Harris they're carving out a role for him, whatever that means. I mean, if you're a Hyde owner, that's got to scare you in how he's going to be used.
I thought once Carlos Hyde was back and active that he would go back into that feature role. I don't know if that's going to be this week, however, even if he is ready to play. Number one, Arizona, number one defense in the National Football League. So that's a tough matchup, first of all. So it's probably not a good idea to throw him back into the lineup.
Right.
And one other, Dion Lewis.
Dion Lewis, yeah.
We've been waiting all all season for Dion Lewis to come back from the knee surgery.
Injuries, man,
and
for this guy.
He was very effective last year with the Patriots, but his season ended early because of injury. Now coming back, there's a chance he's activated. You know, he's been activated off the PUP list. Will he be on the active roster for? And that's the problem with New England. They play the Sunday night game against the Seahawks, so you're going to have to wait there. I think it's another case. You've got to just hang on and not try and force him into your lineup. You gotta wait until maybe next week. And see what the workload is.
That's true. That's true. Again, this is Fantasy Football Live. Steve Gardner, Casey Moore. We're taking your questions on Facebook Live. You also can submit your questions on the fantasy chat that Steve will take over at 12 o'clock Eastern time. So let's get started with some of the questions that were submitted. What are people asking? We've got this question is from Puds, Puds. Thanks for the question. Who should I start at RB2 this week from these options? Standard scoring league: Stewart, Gurley, Howard, Montgomery. There's that guy we were talking about.
Well, Jonathan Stewart in our rankings is a top 10 running back for Carolina against Kansas City. So I think he's got to be in consideration. Todd Gurley is. Here's another guy that has confounded fantasy owners all season long.
Yes, I'm among them.
Todd Gurley also didn't practice a couple of days this past week. So that throws him, he's at number 17 against the Jets. The Jets' defense is kind of banged up a little bit.
Yeah, their rush defense is pretty good.
But still, solid. The other choices were, besides Gurley and Stewart,
were
run back.
Yeah, I was already going to the next question. Howard and Montgomery. Yep.
Jordan Howard, let's see. He's further down. No, Jordan Howard. Oh,
he's
a number
top
five.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to use him. The Bears coming off a bye week. That's big for them.
Yes. Yeah.
And Tampa Bay, one of the poorer defenses around. I think you've got to go Jordan Howard and Jonathan Stewart out of those two.
Okay.
So
there's definitely Howard and Montgomery is further down the list.
Yep.
So this is from Paul in Boulder. What to do? Rodgers with Monty, Adams, and Nelson, or Brady with Edelman? Most concerned with the quarterback start, and then please rank the rest. Points per reception league with flex. Thank you.
Here's the thing. On our rankings, we've got Brady 1 and Rodgers 2.
Yeah, right.
So you really can't go wrong with those guys.
Yeah.
And I think if you've got Jordy Nelson and you've got Rodgers, granted the Packers are playing on the road at Tennessee, I like the combination of Rodgers and Nelson better than I do Brady and Edelman.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm leaning. The Patriots going against Seattle in the Sunday night game.
Yeah.
The Seahawks defense has not been the fierce Seahawks defense that we've come to expect. So I think both are excellent starts, don't get me wrong, but I think if you're going to pair them up and you need that extra boost that you get from stacking players on the same team, I'm going with Green Bay this week.
All right. So now we got some questions coming into the Facebook Live chat. Thank you for taking the time. Gene Messenkopf says, Gurley or Perkins? And this seems absurd to be thinking that we would be talking about Paul Perkins and Todd Gurley in the same sentence in Week 10, but that's where we're at right now.
I know. I'd still go with Gurley.
Me too,
I mean, he's going to get the workload. That's the one thing. We don't know how the Giants are going to distribute the carries among Rashad Jennings, Paul Perkins, and whomever else they may have in the backfield. And plus, I think that's going to be more of a shootout, the Giants and Bengals. So look for Eli Manning and Andy Dalton both to have really good games through the air. I think the running game gets minimalized in both of these instances. So definitely go with Gurley there, even though it's tough.
I mean, you're waiting just for a blow-up week. That guy is one of those guys that you're sitting there waiting for him to get you a 20-point week. And you're expecting it to happen at some point, right?
Yeah, and I've heard people say he's got an easy schedule in weeks 14 and 16 in the fantasy playoffs. You got to get there.
Yeah, got to get there.
One thing before we go to the next question, just run down the top quarterbacks. Tom Brady, we said number 1. Aaron Rodgers, number 2. Cam Newton is our number 3 quarterback. Dak Prescott coming in at number 4 this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Matt Ryan, number 5. Joe Flacco, who played on Thursday night, was 6 through 3 touchdown passes, so that was a pretty good start. Ben Roethlisberger, number 7. Drew Brees, 8. Russell Wilson, 9. And Eli Manning, 10.
And the top 10 running backs, we got David Johnson of Arizona, Ezekiel Elliott against Pittsburgh, Le'Veon Bell against Dallas. J.I.J. We were singing his praises at the beginning of the year, and it's come to fruition. Jordan Howard, as we said, number 5. Melvin Gordon, 6. Devontae Freeman, 7. Jonathan Stewart, 8. Mark Ingram, 9. And Darren Sproles, 10, with Spencer Ware at 11. Just on the outside there. Next question we've got is Jesse James has said, I've hit rock bottom. I need one PPR pick. Yeldon, Powell, or Barber, with Martin playing, of course, which we've mentioned.
I don't like T.J. Yeldon because it looks like Jacksonville, it changed offensive coordinators last week. Chris Ivory got the bulk of the carries and was very good, very productive, except for the fumble at the goal line. Had that happened, had he been able to carry that in, had they ruled out a touchdown even on the replay, he would have had a fantastic day, and we wouldn't even be talking much about T.J. Yeldon. But Yeldon did catch a touchdown pass, so, he's still in the mix. The other two we're talking about,
Bilal Powell and Barber.
Bilal Powell down, he's 33rd on our rankings. Yeldon 28, and Barber. I'll tell you what, I'm almost leaning toward Peyton Barber just because of the volume of carries. I think he's going to get the most out of all three.
What kind of day are you expecting out of Doug Martin today?
I expect maybe 4 or 5 carries.
Okay.
And as we're talking about our rankings, they don't agree with me. They have Peyton Barber down at number 42. And the Bears' run defense, I can see that. Not great choices out of all three. But I think from a volume standpoint and the chance of getting into the end zone, I think Peyton Barber is going to be the best play of the three.
And he says it he's hit rock bottom, so he's not very confident in his choices either. Another running back question, James Starks or Tim Hightower? Can you believe there were?
I think this one, it seems like it's a job share between Mark Ingram and Tim Hightower. Both of them are getting carries. Both of them are getting touches. Again, as we said at the top, I don't think you can count on those guys like James Starks, Dion Lewis, coming back from injury and playing and being an immediate factor right away. So I've got to go. Against Starks in that case.
And it seems like a lot of people are asking that question. They're just as confused about what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's a legitimate concern here.
Spencer Ware is the only guy out of that group, I think, that you can
plug in with confidence.
You can play with confidence.
All right, I'm going to try to thank you for all your questions. I'm skipping around here because we've got a lot of people wondering about running backs, and we're trying to sum it up with that. A lot of people asking about James Starks. At quarterback, Carson Wentz or Russell Wilson? This is from Frank Hamilton.
I think you still have to go with Russell Wilson. Wentz is number 16. Wilson is number 9. The thing that I like about Russell Wilson, and granted he's playing at New England, and New England coming off a bye week, going to be nice and rested.
Yeah.
They've had all the time in the world to game plan for Russell Wilson. The thing that I like about him, though, last week you saw he had a little bit better mobility.
Yep.
He was running a little bit, getting out of trouble, and throwing on the run. That makes him much more effective.
Yeah.
So I like Russell Wilson.
More downfield passes, I think, are expected as he continues to regain his health there. We've got another running back question that we haven't touched on: Devontae Booker or Capri Bibbs.
I'm glad that we got this in. I think Capri Bibbs showed some serious breakaway ability in the game last week. Took a screen pass, 69 yards for a touchdown. Looked great. The one thing with that, though, is it was late in the game. The outcome was pretty much decided, and it looked like the defenders maybe were not, they were kind of gassed.
Yeah.
And Bibbs deserves, because Devontae Booker has not been great, has not been productive, has basically been a 3 yards in a cloud of dust kind of guy.
Right.
Bibbs deserves more playing time. Even if they split carries 50-50, I don't know that Bibbs warrants starting over Booker just because of volume.
Right. It's one of those show me type situations too. I mean, you're talking about teammates, and you're wondering who's going to have the workload, and it'll unravel right before your eyes.
Yep.
So they'll be able to tell you, and you'll probably play the wrong guy. If you're me, you'll play the wrong guy. You'll sit there and you'll be like, I knew it. Tight end question.
Okay.
We got Zach Ertz or Lance Kendricks?
I think Ertz got a lot of work last week, and although he didn't get into the end zone, I think Kendricks did. I still think Ertz, in terms of the workload and targets, if it's a PPR league, I think I'm going with Ertz. If it's a standard scoring league, I think I may lean back toward Kendricks. I mean, they're very close.
He does say PPR.
Okay, so Kendricks is our number 9. Our rankings are PPR. So and Ertz is at 13. So they're fairly close. Really, it's a toss-up when they're that close.
All right, I'm going to try to wrap 2 questions into one here because it involves the Eli. It's a quarterback question. One guy wants to know Eli or Cousins, and the other guy wants to know Eli or Palmer. So where do we put Eli among those 3? Does he beat them both out?
Okay. We have Eli at 10, Carson Palmer at 17, and Kirk Cousins at 23. Okay. That's how they shake out. I think Eli, we talked earlier about against the Giants and Bengals, possibly an aerial shootout. I think that's the most likely scenario, so I think Eli's ahead there. Carson Wentz against Atlanta. Atlanta gives up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. And so, even though Wentz has not been impressive the last few weeks, I think if you've got that option, you probably need to throw him in there, especially if it's against Kirk Cousins. Yeah. So I think that's the play in that case.
All right, and
before we close it out, give you the wide receiver rankings. We gave you the quarterbacks and running backs earlier. Antonio Brown is our number 1 wide receiver this week, followed by Julio Jones. Mike Evans, coming back from a concussion, looks like he's good to go. Yeah. He's in at number 3. Odell Beckham 4. AJ Green, kind of familiar faces here. Jordy Nelson 6. Brandon Cooks, Des Bryant, Larry Fitzgerald, and DeAndre Hopkins.
And then the top 10 tight ends we'll do is Gronk, Jordan Reed, Travis Kelce, Greg Olsen, Delaney Walker, Zach Miller, Jimmy Graham, Jason Witten, Lance Kendricks, and Cameron Brate.
All right, Casey, I see by the old clock on the wall.
It looks like we're about
close.
Up here. Yeah. How about one more question? We got one more.
Sure.
The most recent question we got is from Scott Harrison. Thank you all for submitting your questions. We're not done. Steve will answer the questions on the chat, and I'll try to dip into some of the questions that were not answered on the Facebook Live. But the last question from Scott Harrison: pick 2 of these 4 running backs: Bell, Ajay, Howard, or Booker.
All right. Le'Veon Bell is number 3.
Yeah.
Jay Ajayi is number 4, and Jordan Howard is 5.
Right.
So we only need 2.
Yeah, you need 2 out of that.
I think Bell certainly has to be the guy. I think he could have a monster.
I think some people are just getting frustrated with him, but you got to say he's Le'Veon
no touchdowns.
Right.
This
exactly.
Year,
exactly.
I would think that you would get frustrated.
Right.
I think this is the week that he breaks out, maybe even more than one. Yeah. And again, Jay Ajayi, I think is the pick there.
Over
but Jordan Howard is a solid one as well. But
so good. The fact that you have those three of those 3 of our top 5 running backs, you're doing all right there, Scott. All right.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Steve, and thanks for joining us today. everyone. As I said, Steve will take over the chat on usatoday.com/fantasy. Is that right?
It's fantasy.usatoday.com will get you right there.
Okay, and then I'll try to answer whatever questions were not answered on the Facebook Live. So hopefully we can get that all figured out for you, and we'll be back next week. So thanks again.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck.